In 1948, the natives were expelled from the land of their ancestors, their homes and cities shelled. From the traitors in Transjordan to clandestine British demand, by the settlers' Zionist army that rampaged across the land. Oh, Palestine, we hear your desperate plea that once again across the land your people can be free. Oh, Palestine, your people live in fear. We demand your emancipation from the river to the sea. 1967, Israel did invade to conquer and to colonize what little had remained. The people of old Palestine, once again their fates entwined with the Zionist occupation of their homes and weary minds. Oh, Palestine, we hear your desperate plea that once again across the land your people can be free. Oh, Palestine, your people live in fear. We demand your emancipation from the river to the sea. In 2023, they've come a final time to destroy your homes and families with a murderous, lethal design. The bombs overhead are falling as our leaders continue their lies. The sky does glow and the blood it flows as we hear the children's cries. Oh, Palestine, we hear your desperate plea that once again across the land your people can be free. Oh, Palestine, your people live in fear. We demand your emancipation from the river to the sea. We stand with your emancipation. Your people will be free.
Good morning. Nice to see all of you here. Welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. This is a congregation that's built on covenant, not creed. We don't all believe the same things, but we do all agree that how we treat one another in this life matters. And trying to grow in understanding, trying to grow in the ways of compassion, trying to learn how to communicate with people who don't think like we do. Trying to learn how to be more effective for the causes of justice and peace and compassion in the world is something we strive for continuously. And to that end, whoever you are, whatever your age, race, origin, orientation, background, status, ability, identity, if you care to be here in mutuality, you are always welcome. We front load the services with a little bit of information, so please those of you who are visiting, bear with us for just a minute, and we'll get right back to the service.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Russell, one of our board members here. And for March, our volunteer of the month is Ava Peck. Ava does a lot around here. She has recently been part of the team that helped do the building clean out and the garage sale to try to help us get ready for our move. She has been what I call a miniature bee-pod in training. She does work with Louisiana Aid for Immigrants in Detention, which is a All Souls adjacent organization, as well as Laughing Dog Ranch, and is also training to be a sound engineer with her dad. So thank you, Ava. Each month we have what's called Give Away the Plate. That is where we choose a nonprofit local organization whose mission the church wants to support, and any funds that come in that are not designated for pledges or other special designations will go to that agency. For March, we are giving away the plate to Louisiana Aid for Immigrants in Detention. Home is here. That organization, as many of you know, works to help immigrants who are seeking asylum in the U.S. to get to and have been released from detention and ICE custody, helps them to get to their sponsors and their families so that they can continue their journey through the immigration process. So thank you and good morning.
Good morning and welcome everybody. My name is Susan Caldwell and I'm the Religious Education Director here and also kind of our liaison to North Louisiana Interfaith and Together Louisiana, along with others who are also part of those organizations. We have Pledge to Vote cards here today, and you can either scan the code with your phone or go to pledgetovote.la. Sign in. Nobody's going to see how you vote, just that you voted. What we try to do is kind of encourage each other that rather than knock on doors and talk to strangers, we talk to the people we know about voting and about the importance of voting. And so if you're willing, I'm going to just hand these to Bennett and let them start kind of passing around. And we have a lot in the service today, so if you want to know more, please talk to me after the service. We are very happy to have Josh Teitelbaum, who will join us via Zoom later this morning as our guest speaker. He's from Jewish Voice for Peace, New Orleans, and thank you so much, Josh, for being here. March 16th, Saturday, March 16th, Bob Jordan and friends, lots of friends, are playing music. We're going to have a party down in the social hall, libations for donations, suggested donation at the door of $15, but do not let that be an obstacle. If you can give more to kind of, put somebody else, that's great. And it's for St. Patrick's Day. Did I not say that? It's for St. Patrick's Day. And there are flyers out front. And and very quickly, our children and youth today, when they go to their classes, will be doing something from birdsofgaza.com, which is basically making birds out of whatever they want to make them out of. And we have lots of different, they can draw them, they can make them out of craft supplies, but they're in memory of the children who have died in the conflict, like by name. They will pick a child and make a bird, and we'll upload pictures to the site, but also if there is a protest or a vigil coming up soon, then they can also, if they want to, bring their birds, and adults can do it too. So thank you, that's all I got.
So let's let the pews hold us up for a minute. Take a couple of deep, hopefully comfortable breaths. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears and the muscles in your feet, and the rest of you relax.
The earth has arms that hold us near, protect us from the things we fear. And though we walk down this path alone, singing, welcome home, ah yeah, welcome home. We come together in the morning sun to celebrate what we've become. People giving each other what we need. With courage, strength, and power, we will succeed. And though we walk down this path alone, singing, welcome home, ah yeah, welcome home. We strive for peace deep within our hearts, and the love we feel makes a brand new start. And I give to you, and you give to me, and I hold you close in my memory. And though we walk down this path alone, singing, welcome home, ah yeah, welcome home. And though we walk down this path alone, singing, welcome home, ah yeah, welcome home. And after all our work is done, there'll be no more fighting, there'll be no more guns. As we hold hands, the world becomes one, singing, welcome home, ah yeah, welcome home. And though we walk down
From the bottom of my very existence, I am pervaded with light energy, shining colors to my eye, warmth to my skin, inspiration to my soul. In this unity of creative sparks and sparkling creation, life unfolds. Let us open our senses to the light within and around us and send it out with shining examples into the world. And from that same world, we are called today, from the midst of pain and challenge, we are called to praise the world that in so many ways appears broken, to seek out, notice, and praise life's moments of kindness and grace. From time that seems to freeze in ongoing exchanges of platitudes and blame, we're called to reach out to those around us, to connect with those we care about, and to try to make amends with those from whom we are estranged. The world is too fragile. There is too much pain. Let us bring our hearts together to praise the mutilated world and all its blessing and all its pain. It is now when we are called as witnesses of the world to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud while holding love at our core and the light of that love before us. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up, to carry truth to power. It is now. Let us gather, let us give each other courage. Celebremos. Let us worship. Do we have someone who would like to lead the first part of our chalice lighting?
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, with mind, head, and heart, we care for the earth and for each other.
There's not a word. And I believe Carrie is doing the second half of our chalice lighting this morning. Thank you.
What shall I do?
Just read it. It's already lighted. So
Okay. My statement? My
just
comment?
whatever it is that you have to share.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for being here this morning, and thank you to Barbara and Susan especially. It's always wonderful to be back at All Souls. In kind of putting some remarks together, I realized that every time I end up here, it's a momentous moment in my life personally. The first time I came here was probably nearly 10 years ago. in the effort to stop the open burn in Camp Minden, working with Ron Hagar and Francis Kelly. And then again, a couple years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, with the members of the Hope Medical Group, saluting Kathleen Pittman as it kind of came to an end there. And it's always just wonderful to be among, like Barbara said, open-minded, helping hands and loving hearts. I don't want to take too much time. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Josh and the others. But I have a few strands I'd like to share with you. First, a little bit of just kind of context when it comes to this current situation we're facing in occupied Palestine. Most of the attention, of course, has been on the Gaza Strip, for good reason. I want to explain to you in geographical terms what the Gaza Strip really is. If you picture Caddo Parish, the Gaza Strip is about 1/6 the size of Caddo Parish, with about 10 times the population, a little less now, I suppose. To try to compare the infrastructure, the clean water, the health care, the education, there's no comparison. Caddo Parish may certainly have its issues, but it's a whole other ballgame. A little bit about my journey, and I'll be as brief as I can here. I must admit completely that my experience and my knowledge with this topic is almost exclusively vicarious. There's some people I really am greatly indebted to for teaching me and listening to me and entertaining my questions whenever they popped up. My understanding is incomplete as well. There's so much more to be learned, transcended, processed, and at the same time, it's a little embarrassing that it took this point in my life to come to the understanding what really was going on when, as I'm about to explain, I had the signs there, really from the very beginning. So my first memories of this situation really go back to probably the late 70s or so, when I just would catch a glimpse of the TV news and see words like Golan and Hebron and Gaza and Jericho and Jerusalem, but I never knew what they meant, how they were put together, what the context was at all. A couple years later, there was the Camp David summit, the peace process initiated between Israel and Egypt, which was celebrated at the time, but in hindsight, we look back and we see it probably more properly as the onset of a process of normalization for what Israel had embarked upon some 30 years prior. A few years later, as a young teen, 13 or 14 years old, I remember seeing again on the news the images coming out of West Beirut, of Sabra and Shatila refugee camps. Still not understanding what was going on, and there was no one really to really explain it to me. So my curiosity continued. But that was the first time I remember it being telegenically presented to me in pictures, in video, in black, white, and in red. A couple years later, as most teenagers my age, we were fixated by the onset of MTV and all things videographic, and we would watch our Madonna and our Van Halen and our heavy metal and our rap videos. But there was one video in 1984, I believe it was, and it was an ensemble group of musicians, everyone from P-Funk and Parliament to George Clinton to Bruce Springsteen, Hall & Oates, many others. And they were singing about not wanting to play a certain venue in South Africa for a reason I had no idea what it meant, but they weren't going to play Sun City. And I would go on to learn that Sun City was one of the last recognized vestiges of apartheid on this planet. And most of us in this room can probably remember overcoming that. I don't know if that video had much to do with it, but it certainly opened this teenager's eyes to something beyond just electric guitars and bass drums. We move on to Oslo in 1993. Again, appears to be a wonderful move in the right direction. As it turns out, it was, again, more normalization of the project that we are met about here today. And then this is where the embarrassing part comes in, especially for me. It wasn't until probably 20 years later when, as a flourishing professor at a local community college, I was making so much money I needed to go to H&R Block and have my taxes done. And that's when I met Miss Sherry, and we sat and talked, and she did my taxes and did what she could for me. And our discussion went to something or other, some windmill I was tilting at the time. And she said, well, you need to meet my husband. And I said, okay, here we go. More people I can supposedly learn from. And it was soon thereafter that I had my first meeting with Abbas, or what I like to call my dinner with Abbas. And we sat at Rhino Coffee for 2 or 3 hours. And I asked him every question I could think of, and he had every answer, the best he could provide, from his time in Lebanon, from his encounters with Hezbollah, to the impact it's had on his life and his family. And that's where I am today. I'd like to next just kind of dispel one myth with a bit of evidence. Oftentimes when I get into, and it's not often I'll get into an argument about this topic at all, but the argument is made that there is no Israeli occupation of the Gaza Strip. The occupation there ended in 2005 when the settlers and the military left the confines of the Gaza Strip, only to resettle, of course, in parts of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. But in reality, the Gaza Strip is more occupied now than it ever has been. No one goes in and no one goes out, no food, no electricity, no clean water, and as we've seen lately, no humanitarian aid. For going on 18 years now, the Gaza Strip has been a testing ground for weapons around the world at the expense of 2.3 million people. Soon after 2005 and the end of the occupation, as they say, the world became witness to a series of what is colloquially known as mowing the lawn in Gaza, where the Israeli military, beginning in 2006, in 2008 with Operation Cast Lead, which just so happened to commence the day after President Obama had been elected, so it kind of was not front page news. 22 days, 1,200 killed, 900 civilians in the Gaza Strip. 2012, Pillar of Defense is launched for a short 8 days and only 100 civilians killed. 2014, Protective Edge in the summer, 51 straight days of bombardment upon the Gaza Strip, 2,300 killed, 528 children, 70% of those killed civilians. In 2018, a glimmer of hope. Since armed resistance wasn't seeming to work, although it is completely warranted under international law to an occupied population, the movement turned to peaceful protest again. with the Great March of Return, where inhabitants of Palestine in the Gaza Strip would walk to the wall en masse to protest their captivity. They were mowed down on the day that the U.S. Embassy, was moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. 60 were killed that day, and a total of 258 in total, according to reliable numbers. In 2021, the Guardian of the Walls operation commenced for 12 days. Another glimmer of hope here locally. There was a rather large demonstration on Texas Street in front of the Caddo Courthouse that I was privileged to take part in with some comrades and friends and new friends. But it didn't seem to change anything. And then we come to this past 5 months. The numbers now are staggering. Officially, by whoever's count, we're at 30,000 killed since October 7th in the Gaza Strip. Upwards of 70% of those civilians, and at least 2/3 women and children, and no closer to any resolution. The question becomes, what is to be done? If I had that answer, friends, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. I'd be implementing any solution I could. I've lost great hope in electoral politics. This is a bipartisan, if anything's bipartisan in the Beltway, it's support for Israel and its occupation. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions is still active and still effective. But I have no answers. I really don't. And I've taken too much of your time this morning already. I ask you please to just reach out with questions to anyone you feel comfortable with about this. I think we're going to have some gathering afterwards, after the service. And please, Josh's voice, when we hear from him, for Jewish Voice for Peace, is one of the great hopes we still have, that we can change this from literally from the inside. Thank you very much, everyone.
Can we rise in body or spirit and say the unison affirmation as you're comfortable? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the sacred. Thus do we covenant with each other. And let us remain standing and sing together, Where Have All the Flowers Gone? Bob Jordan will lead it.
This is a song that Pete Seeger wrote many years ago. And
Unitarian.
yeah, he was a Unitarian, true. It's based on a Ukrainian folk song, which I think is a kind of an appropriate source given everything that's been happening. Salam alaikum. Shalom chaverim. That's Hebrew. Peace be with you.
And also with you.
all the young men gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young men gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young men gone? They're all in uniform. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn? Where have all the soldiers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the soldiers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the soldiers gone? Gone to graveyards, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will we ever learn? Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time passing. Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time ago. Where have all the graveyards gone? They've gone to flowers, everyone. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn? Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? Buried in rubble, everyone. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn?
I believe Sarah is going to do a poem for us now.
Hello, my name is Sarah, and today I will be reciting a poem by Rafat Alarir, a Palestinian poet killed in Gaza December 7 of last year. If I must die. If I must die, you must live. To tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, it sees the kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a beautiful poem, and that was Rafat's last poem, I believe. So, and a lot of people now are carrying kites in his memory. I wanted to talk to you this morning, as Carrie's already mentioned, and as we've been telling you before today, that our guest, Josh Teitelbaum, is from Jewish Voice for Peace. And I wanted to tell one of my favorite stories from the Jewish tradition, favorite stories and teachings, which is about Tikkun Olam, or healing the world. And it can mean acts of loving kindness, participation in the ongoing process of creation. And the story was first told by a 16th century Jewish mystic named Luria, Isaac Luria. And he said that at a certain point, God was just so big and so immense and so unimaginable that God contracted God's self, kind of moved back to let creation kind of take its role, that they would be kind of co-creating. But the thing is, God kind of put God's self into jars, into containers. But God's power was so great that the containers broke apart. They burst. And the teaching and the story is that each one of us is carrying one of those pieces. Each one of us is carrying one of those pieces. And it is our job, it's our mission in this world to find each other and to heal the world, to put the world back together. And Unitarian Universalism came out of the early Christian church, which came out of the Jewish tradition. So this is very much our faith, and very much something that we practice and believe, and that our Jewish neighbors do. And so there is a saying from Pirkei Avot, and if I've mispronounced it, I hope Josh can correct me, but he said, "You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." None of us can do all of it. None of us can do everything. But we can learn, and we can do our part. And we can do our part in love. This morning, as I mentioned, the kids will do Birds for Gaza. Then the teachers will help them with that. And if you are a child who is visiting, you're welcome to go back with the kids, or you're welcome to stay in here with us. Either place. We're so happy that you're here, and we're happy either way. Let's sing them out, please. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Our time is getting away from us. I am going to ask today that we're going to forego the readings and the candle lighting. I'm going to ask that for a moment we sit in silence. We think in our hearts about what we might do to help heal the world. And then we'll continue with the service. I'm sorry. Please. My stuff is messed up. Okay.
Hi, everybody. So I was going to do this responsive reading, which you have in your program, and that's from Reverend Naima Teague's Palestinian Christian liberation theology, which, if you don't know, liberation theology is basically just the idea of using religious texts to basically challenge forms of oppression. But instead of doing that, I'm just going to give like the brief reflection that I was going to do afterwards. And I really just wanted to say to everybody here that, you know, I was one of those people who saw what was happening in Palestine even before what's been happening the last 5 months. And I was really one of those people that was very moved by it, very passionate about it, and I was still afraid to speak up because I was worried about what would happen to my community, and I was worried about giving people the wrong idea. And I almost didn't contact Josh when I first emailed him, but I did. And, you know, I'm just one person. And, you know, I'm not that special. I have a lot of people around me who were really willing to help out. And so, you know, if I can do this, then all of you can too, because, you know, I know we don't like to talk about it, but like there are 30,000 people that have been killed with the help of our government. And so, you know, now's the time for you to really find that voice inside of all of you and to speak out about this. Because, you know, as a society, we can't let this continue. And we have to all work together to make sure that, you know, Palestine is free, that everywhere is free, you know, from whatever river to wherever, that, you know, Jews and Arabs, Muslims, Christians, everybody is equal. So, thank you.
Catherine?
Good morning. My name is Catherine. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for being here. I was asked to speak this morning from the perspective of a mother regarding the apartheid happening in Israel. And I'm very grateful to do so. And I spent some time thinking about this, and to be quick, I want to tell you a short story from perhaps a year, 2 years ago. I attended an educational fundraiser for Palestinian children. And while there, the children were given trivia. It was a game of trivia. And I was so impressed that these very young school-age children, middle school and much younger, were so well-informed and so well-educated on their history and on their current events and current affairs. And they understood their heritage. They understood where their country had come from and what their country was going through to a degree that most adults could not match. It made a very big impression on me, these children did. And what I have done in response to that is something that we can all do, and that is to teach our children what we learn about what is happening between Israel and Gaza, and teach our children that apartheid is wrong, obviously, and teach them the truth of the situation, the truth that they will not get from American media, the truth that they will not get from our leaders here, the truth that they won't get anywhere but their parents from home. And I have taught my own son and have had to rein him in some when he's had political arguments on the playground, and I've gotten phone calls about it. But I have taught him the truth, and he will grow up knowing the truth. And this is very effective we see it in all religious forms and in other beliefs and values. When you instill those in your young children, they grow up and do not depart from them. So I teach my son the truth of what is happening, and he is going to be the next generation if we can't get anything accomplished, if we are afraid to stand up and speak out, if we are afraid of what retaliation we may face, perhaps the next generation won't be. And so I teach him what he won't learn in school. I teach him critical thinking. We have a poster of the logical fallacies. We have a book of the logical fallacies. He has a book on cognitive dissonance, on the Dunning-Kruger effect, all forms and manner of critical thinking skills that will not be taught to him in school, that his government does not want him to understand. It starts at home. And if we teach our children the truth, and we teach our children to speak up and to be strong, and be the example for them, and speak up ourselves, then our children can carry the banner and they can carry that torch, and one generation will get something accomplished and get something done. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I am not going to do a long introduction because Josh is going to do a lot of his introduction as part of his talk, so I'm going to hand it over to Josh Teitelbaum. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry. Turn down my headphones so I don't hear myself. Okay. Actually, one more. Does everyone hear me? Or can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Sorry. Just have a echo. But I like to preface my statement today with the reality that I will be speaking from my personal experience, my personal narrative, but that I go for the purpose of inviting people into the movement, for the purpose of centering Palestinians and Palestinian experience. And so I just want to put that out there because this is not about me, but my story is I'm going to use it as a vehicle for my experience and how I got involved. Palestinian suffering is ongoing. Their oppression is ongoing to this day. And as such, I also wanted to take a moment to thank the movement. My participation in the movement for Palestinian liberation is, however small a part I play, is one of the greatest honors of my life. And I'm grateful for the example that Palestinians have given us through their movement. Okay. I also wanted to open with a couple more quick disclaimers. One is that I'm here obviously representing a Jewish organization, but that's only necessary insofar as Israel has appropriated history of Jewish suffering, Jewish iconography, and has weaponized anti-Semitism. So it's necessary for me to show up in this way. But this is not, and speaking to normalization, as was mentioned earlier, this is not a religious conflict. It's not a conflict at all, but I just wanted to start with the idea that this is not about religion. Okay, so with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and my family's history. So I am the grandson of Jewish Holocaust survivors. My grandfather was born in Germany in 1914. My grandmother was born in Vienna, Austria in 1920. My grandfather was fortunate enough, in a sense, to have had an early kind of patient or inclination of what was going on, and decided to try to leave Germany, and was ultimately able to leave Germany before the borders were totally shut down. So he left. The Nazis were in power, but he was able to get out, and he went to America. basically with just whatever he had in his pockets, and he didn't go back to Germany until the United States declared war, and then he enlisted that same day to go fight. My family, so his older brother was killed by the Nazis. His parents were killed by the Nazis. His aunts and uncles were killed by the Nazis. He had one cousin who survived, and I knew them. They were part of our family. They were here in the States. His younger brother was not able to get out because of his age, but he was sheltered by a Catholic family in Germany, who hid him, and he ultimately married the daughter of that family. They grew up in the States, and we're still close with them. Well, their children and children's children now. His younger sister was able to get out, but she tried to get her parents out. She ultimately was able to get the papers actually, but unfortunately it was too late. They were already taken, and that haunted her for the rest of her life. That she was so close but so far. And my grandfather also had tried to convince his parents to leave. But Germany was the only world they knew, and it was hard to convince people that something terrible was happening, that something terrible was coming, and that it was a tough choice, and they ultimately didn't leave in time. And my grandmother, she was fortunate insofar as she was able to get a visa with her mother to England to become a domestic servant. Her sister was too young to leave. On that route, there was no other way out. So the only other option was they were able to get her on transport, which was where children were allowed out of Germany and Austria and other places. But no one could go with them. There were attendants on these boats and trains, but those attendants had to come back, and they were all slaughtered. And my grandmother did not know, and her mother did not know if her sister was alive for years. They find each other till years later. And her father was killed, and so was the rest of her family. And then my grandparents became refugees. I say all this because it's important. I joined Jewish Voice for Peace. I stand for Palestinian liberation, not in spite of all this, but because of it, right? To honor it, to honor this history. Because I know that this didn't just happen. Things don't just happen in the world. The Holocaust happened through indifference, right? One of the greatest tragedies of the Holocaust was that the world watched it happen, or the world let it happen. I'm sorry. The greatest tragedy of the current genocide in Palestine is that the world is watching it happen in real time. But at the same time, what happened in Germany is a process that rings true today too, in terms of the kind of oppression that we see marching across the globe. Ethno-nationalism. This idea that somehow all the people living in the same place, be it Jews and non-Jews in Germany, or Palestinians and Jewish Israelis living between the river and the sea, right? All the people living in the same place under the control of the same regime don't all have the same rights, are not all somehow part of the same nation. Or here in America, when people talk about real Americans and not real Americans, that resonates, because what people are trying to do in those moments is say that somehow, I mean, we've seen it, the history goes all the way back to the, and before that, but the Jim Crow in the South, where people living in the same place under the same government are not treated as part of the same nation, right? From my family's history, I feel personally called. I mean, I can't when I think to what's going on in Palestine, I think about my grandparents, and I think about the idea that that they were all alone, that no one would help them, that no one, and that the help that was needed wasn't there, right? There was nothing that could be changed in Germany at that moment that would have saved their families or changed things for them. That action had to happen here. That action had to happen elsewhere in the world, right? The action that was needed was right here in the United States. Um, Beyond that, some people think it's naive, right? Some people think that you know, that this is all just about feelings, but this is more than altruism, right? This is a practical dimension to it, right? Um, the My family's history, um, and what's happening now, um, resonate for practical purposes. So I just wanted to share briefly a kind of hypothesis that came out of University of Michigan last year or 2 years ago. I'm sorry. It kind of describes the relationship that I have with what's going on. It's a study that was done in Michigan um, by two professors, and the study is on the legacy of genocide and the Holocaust, right? And and its implications for today. So it's very brief, but um, it talks about how survivors and their descendants can relate to other people's oppression in a positive light. So first, violence may reshape survivors' understanding of their in-group, right? The group that you see yourself as a part of. Instead of viewing their history as predominantly tied to an ethnic or religious background, survivors' social identity becomes in part rooted in their experience of victimization. As a result, they come to see other victimized populations as more similar to themselves, as members of a new fellow stigmatized group, right? So you're like me because we are positioned in the same way, right? Or another viewpoint that's taken is survivors may support other victimized groups that they, even if they still see each other as not part of the same group, right? As somehow different from one another, because they know that upholding the norms and the values that protect one in group protects another, right? So I know that if we have a strong international law, if we uphold universal principles for everyone, then I'm safer, right? That's what keeps me safe. And that if we allow something to go on in the world that weakens those protections for one of us, it weakens them for all of us. But more than that, I want to say that the Palestinians fight as an oppressed, persecuted group, and my fight, right, as a member of a historically persecuted group, our interests are the same. We have common cause, right? The forces that threaten Palestinians are the same forces that threaten Jews, and the forces that and all marginalized groups, right? The policies that protect Palestinians and Palestinian life in Palestine and the rest of the world are the same policies that would protect us, minorities, other marginalized groups, members of other historically persecuted groups. And so I just really wanted to express that sorry, I got a little thrown when with the echo earlier, so I'm sorry we got off to a weird start. But the title of the when they asked me what did I want to talk about today, and I said the title is a quote. If we abandon Palestine, we abandon ourselves, right? That's by Sama Idris. He's the author of children's books. He's since deceased. But if I look to Israel Palestine, and if I had to say who in that dynamic is most similar to is positioned in the same way that my family was positioned in, right? There's only one clear historical analog, and that's the Palestinians, right? For me, God is biased on the side of the oppressed. Um, I wanted to start with a grounding of what's going on in Gaza. We already know this, but Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war. Israel does not allow aid in. Israel is bombing a captive population. As someone who is descended from survivors of the Holocaust and victims of the Holocaust, that's abhorrent to me, right? Um, we cannot we cannot allow that kind of thing to go on in the world, because if it threatens all of us. The I would just leave you before we I understand that today, after the service, people want to come together for a conversation about how to get involved, and there'll be a number of resources there, in terms of what you can do, and if you want to reach out to someone. I want to normalize taking action. I want to normalize talking about Israel Palestine. I want to empower people that you can talk about this issue, that it's that you don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Um, and I'll leave you with this. This is by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and this is from a speech that he made at a Vietnam anti-war rally back in the 60s. And I credit Peter Beinart for bringing this quote to my attention. The rabbi says, God's voice is shaking heaven and earth, and man does not hear the faintest sound. The Lord roars like a lion. His word is like fire, like a hammer breaking rocks to pieces. And people go about unmoved, undisturbed, unaware. And I know that you are not unmoved, undisturbed, and unaware, but for me, the most dangerous thing about Israel has always been the way in which something so clearly wrong, something so clearly unjust is happening in plain sight, and no one's doing anything about it. So I hope that you guys can come together today and in the future, and know that you can do something about it, because the liberation of Palestine is the liberation of all of us, and Palestinians deserve to be free. So I apologize for the connection issues at the start, and but I thank you for having me here nonetheless, and thank you so much.
Our closing hymn will be a verse of We'll Build a Land. We had talked about, after this service, trying to hand out resources and perhaps do some letter writing and phone calling together about this. So if you will or are able, please stay after the service and join us to actually take some action. Would you rise, please, in body or spirit? Well, that's all you put in the order.
I think I put 2 on the screen, but anyway.
Okay. Well, we may have 2 verses. Come There is too much hardship in the world not to look for ways to be kind to one another every day. There's too much injustice in the world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of presence every day. Go in peace, go in safety, and go in love. So be it. Amen. Blessed be. Namaste.
Lost am I in my memory of my forefathers' legacy. I am one of you, you are one of me. Why don't we set the people free? How I grieve to see fulfillment of prophecy. Naive of me to think that things would change while man remains the same. The war will be for me every day. No peace, no peace for the children of Israel. Gaza cries, all the tears from her eyes. There'll be no peace for the children of Palestine. Shalom, salam, shalom, salam, shalom, salam. 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 Who will take the blame for the blood of our children? Who does vengeance belong? No one, no one. Still crying on bomb, still crying on bomb. The only answer is to live as one. And justice will come for my son. And justice will come for my daughter. Yeah. Shalom, salam, shalom, salam, shalom, salam.